All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're taking a deep look at Imperial College London. We've got tons of info straight from their website, like actual job postings and some pretty interesting details about what it's like to work there.
Yeah, what really caught my eye was this work location framework thing they're trying out. Seems like they might be open to hybrid work situations, which,
Yeah.
is pretty forward thinking for a university with their kind of traditional reputation.
Hmm. So maybe you wouldn't be stuck in a lab 24/7. But hold on a sec. What kinds of jobs are we even talking about here? Is it all like super specialized research stuff?
Actually, it's a wider range than you might expect. Of course, there's the usual academic and research roles, professorships, postdoc positions, lab managers, all that. But they also need a whole team behind the scenes to keep a place like Imperial running. Think IT, library staff, administration, even technicians who probably get to work with some seriously cool equipment.
So it's not just for like the big names in their field. There might be entry-level positions for people just starting out too.
Absolutely, and that work location framework could be a game changer, especially for people who aren't ready to move to London full time.
Speaking of London, let's be real. Working at a place that produced people like H.G. Wells and Sir Alexander Fleming, that's got to be a little intimidating, right?
It is pretty mind-blowing to think about their legacy, but don't forget Brian May, the guitarist from Queen. He got his PhD in astrophysics from Imperial, too. So they clearly nurture all sorts of talent, not just the stereotypical lab coat types.
Okay, good point. It's not all just stuffy academics. But let's get practical for a minute. What are some of the perks of working at a place like Imperial, besides bragging rights?
Well, they offer a pretty competitive benefits package, things like a generous pension plan and really good health insurance. But the real draw, in my opinion, is the intellectual stimulation. You're surrounded by some of the brightest minds in the world, pushing the boundaries of knowledge. That's got to be energizing.
That does sound pretty amazing. But I'm sure it's not all sunshine and roses. What are some potential downsides? Or things someone should really think about before applying?
One thing that jumped out at me was the mention of the ATS certificate. That's the Academic Technology Approval Scheme. It's a requirement for some international researchers coming to the UK. Imagine you're a robotics researcher from China hoping to join a PhD program at Imperial. You'd need this ATS certificate to show that your research isn't a security risk to the UK.
Wow, so it's not as simple as just getting accepted into a program. There are extra hurdles, especially for people coming from overseas.
Yeah.
Makes sense, I guess, given the nature of their research.
Exactly. And it really highlights how global politics can impact academic opportunities. It's something to be aware of if you're considering Imperial.
Definitely something to factor in. Let's say you've got all your ducks in a row, visa-wise. What's the actual work culture like at Imperial? Is it super competitive? Or is there a sense of collaboration?
From the material we have, they really emphasize fostering a diverse and inclusive community. They talk about equality of opportunity and creating a welcoming environment for everyone, regardless of background. But how that translates into day-to-day interactions, well, that's something we might need to dig a little deeper into.
Right, because a statement on a website is one thing,
Hmm.
but actually experiencing that inclusivity is another. How do they actually measure and promote this, for example? Do they have specific initiatives in place? Or is it more of a general philosophy?
That's a great question, and one we should definitely explore further, because a truly inclusive environment is crucial, especially in a place like Imperial that attracts talent from all over the world.
Absolutely. And that leads us to another key question. What's the vibe like on campus? Is it all high pressure, publish or perish intensity?
Hmm.
Or is there a more balanced atmosphere?
Well, Imperial is known for its rigorous academic standards. It's a place where research excellence is paramount, so you can expect a fast-paced, intellectually stimulating atmosphere. There will be high expectations, no doubt. But they also seem to highlight collaborative work and knowledge sharing. It probably comes down to finding the right department and team that aligns with your work style.
So it's probably not for the faint of heart. You need to be passionate about your field and driven to succeed to really thrive in that environment.
I think that's a fair assessment, but for the right person, it could be an incredibly rewarding experience. Imagine being surrounded by brilliant minds, contributing to groundbreaking research, and knowing that your work could have a real impact on the world. That's powerful stuff.
It definitely is. But let's shift gears for a moment and think about you, our listener. What stands out to you about Imperial College London so far? If you were picturing yourself working there, what would be your top priorities? What questions are popping into your head?
It's a good time to pause and reflect. Think about your own career aspirations and whether they align with what Imperial offers. Is it the prestige, the research opportunities, the chance to collaborate with top minds? Or maybe it's the allure of London itself?
Yeah, the city can be a big draw for some people.
Hmm.
So consider what's truly important to you in a work environment. Would you be interested in a hybrid setup, for example? What are the pros and cons for you specifically? And thinking back to the ATS certificate, how does that requirement impact your view of international research opportunities?
These are all important questions to ponder as you weigh the potential of working at Imperial College London. It's about finding the right fit for your career goals and lifestyle.
And speaking of fit, let's take a closer look at that work location framework that you mentioned earlier. It's clearly a big point of interest for us and probably for our listener as well. How does it actually work? What are the eligibility criteria? Are there different levels of hybrid work options?
Let's dig into that. Yeah, let's unpack the details of this framework and what it could mean for potential employees at Imperial. Okay, so let's unpack this work location framework. From what I've gathered, it's still in a trial phase, so the details are a bit, fluid.
So not everyone at Imperial is going to suddenly become a digital nomad.
Right, exactly. It seems like it's being rolled out strategically, and each department probably has some flexibility in how they implement it. The specifics would definitely be outlined in the job posting itself.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the criteria? Is it based on seniority, the type of work, or maybe even just a really good pitch during the interview?
Well, I haven't found any hard and fast rules about eligibility yet, but it's probably a combination of factors. The nature of the role is likely key. I mean, some jobs just require on-site presence. But I imagine they're also considering individual circumstances and the needs of the team.
So it's not just about saying, I hate commuting and expecting to work from your pajamas 5 days a week.
Probably not. It sounds like they're aiming for a balance. They want to offer flexibility, but also maintain the collaborative energy that comes from being on campus. Think of it as a way to attract and retain talent in a competitive job market.
It's almost like they're acknowledging that the traditional academic work model needs an update, especially post-pandemic, when so many people realize they could be productive from outside a stuffy office.
Precisely. And Imperial, being a leading research institution, probably wants to stay ahead of the curve. They're likely looking at how this framework impacts everything, from attracting diverse talent to reducing their own operational costs.
It's fascinating to see how this shift towards hybrid work is playing out in academia. It's not just about convenience, it's about reshaping how we think about work itself.
Absolutely. But let's maybe shift gears a bit and dive into the practicalities of actually landing a job at Imperial. Competition is fierce. So what advice would you give to someone prepping their application?
Well, first and foremost, treat it like any other competitive job application. Tailor your CV and cover letter meticulously, highlighting relevant experience and skills. Generic applications rarely make the cut. Do your homework. Understand the department's research focus, even the specific professors you might be working with. Show them you've done your research and you're genuinely interested in what they are doing.
That's crucial. Enthusiasm and a tailored approach can make a big difference. Now, let's say you've landed an interview. Any tips on navigating that process?
From what I've gathered, interviews at Imperial can be pretty rigorous. Be prepared to discuss your research in depth. They'll likely grill you on your methodology, your findings, and the implications of your work. And don't be afraid to ask insightful questions. It shows your engagement and critical thinking.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
They're assessing you, but you're also assessing whether Imperial is the right environment for you.
Exactly. Now, beyond the standard interview prep, are there any insider tips on making your application truly stand out?
Well, Imperial places a high value on collaboration and interdisciplinary work. If you can showcase experience working on diverse teams or research that bridges different fields, that's a big plus.
So I like those projects where you had to step outside your comfort zone
Mm,
and collaborate with people from different backgrounds or areas of expertise.
yes. And think beyond the traditional CV. Have you presented at a conference, published a paper, led a workshop? All of these demonstrate valuable skills that Imperial is looking for.
It's about showcasing your initiative and ability to contribute to their dynamic academic community.
Right. And remember, Imperial is deeply committed to addressing global challenges. If your research aligns with their mission of making a positive impact on society, make sure that comes across in your application.
For example, if your work has implications for sustainability, healthcare innovation, or tackling social inequalities, highlight those connections. Show them you share their values and you're driven to make a difference in the world.
Exactly. Now let's circle back to that work culture question. We talked about diversity and inclusion, but how does that actually play out at Imperial? Is there more to it than just words on a web page?
Good point. A statement is one thing, but what concrete initiatives do they have in place to foster a truly inclusive and welcoming environment?
Well, they have a dedicated Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion Center. And it seems like that's the hub for a lot of their initiatives. They offer training and resources, run mentorship programs. They even have special interest groups for staff and students from different backgrounds.
So it's not just a box-ticking exercise. They're really putting in the effort to create a supportive environment for everyone.
Right. And they specifically mention their commitment to addressing things like gender imbalance in STEM fields and creating a welcoming atmosphere for LGBTQ plus individuals. They've even got awards recognizing staff who champion inclusion.
That's good to hear. It sounds like they're taking concrete steps to address these issues.
Mm.
But I'm also wondering about the day-to-day reality. Do people actually feel comfortable being themselves at Imperial? Is there a sense of belonging, or is it still a bit of an old boys club?
That's a tough question to answer without firsthand experience. I mean, reviews and testimonials can offer some insights, but ultimately, the lived experience will vary from person to person. I think it's important to approach any workplace with a healthy dose of skepticism. And do your own research. Talk to current or former employees, if possible, and get a feel for the real culture.
That's good advice. And it brings us back to the central question of our deep dive. Is Imperial College London the right fit for you? We've covered a lot of ground. The types of jobs, the benefits, the challenges, the work culture, the commitment to inclusion, and even the possibility of hybrid work.
It's a lot to consider. But think back to those priorities we discussed earlier. Does Imperial align with your career goals and values? Are you comfortable with the level of competition and the demanding work environment? And are you excited by the prospect of contributing to groundbreaking research alongside some of the brightest minds in the world?
Right. Because it's not just about Imperial's reputation or the potential for career advancement. It's about finding a place where you can thrive, both professionally and personally. A place where you feel challenged, supported, and valued for your unique contributions.
Exactly. And ultimately, the decision is yours. There's no right or wrong answer. But hopefully, our deep dive has given you the information and insights you need to make an informed choice.
And if you decide to explore opportunities at Imperial or any other top-ranked university, for that matter, don't forget to check out academicjobs.com. It's a fantastic resource for anyone pursuing a career in academia.
It's a one-stop shop for finding and applying for positions worldwide. And who knows, maybe your dream job is just a click away.
That's right. So go out there, do your research, and find the perfect fit for your academic journey. And thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.